Jersey water.
Jersey water is awful.
Yeah, I'll go into that later.
Actually awful.
In the bottom right-hand position as the blue Zerg, we have Liquid Zenio spawning over here on Ohana. In the top left-hand position, it is Galaxy as the red Zerg. Yeah, you mentioned a good point. New Jersey water was tainted with this company named Ciba-Geigy that actually dumped all their chemical sewage into the water, causing a ton of cancer patients in New Jersey. Unfortunate. 1990s was riddled with that.
Yeah.
And because of that, my parents, ever since then, we had a water cooler.
Yeah, that's tough. And then that was a 90s struggle. In 2000s, we had Jersey Shore, another travesty towards Jersey. So I think, but you know what? New Jersey's on the turn because Jersey Shore got canceled.
No,
Hallelujah.
don't worry. Don't worry. Snooki has her own show, bro.
Man, but still, the debacle, the ugliness that was of Jersey Shore is finally gone. But we have something beautiful in creation.
Thank
we have
God.
Ohana in 2012.
And we have a 15 hatch against a 14 pool. Slight, tiny advantage, of course, to Galaxy. Zenio, I guess, welcoming the newcomer to the North American Star League with a little bit more of a safer play. 14 pool is known to be just the go-to if you don't want to die in the early game stages.
That's right. And I think ZVZ's kind of been stabilized to the point where people understand what they need to do, but it doesn't take away from how delicate you still need to play. You know, a lot of players play very greedy early on, but they still kind of scale it back, go for that early spine crawler, try to play a little more defensive base off the ramp. But again, I think it comes down to if you see that you're a bit behind, a lot of players are actually getting more comfortable playing from a little bit behind, but playing even more greedy in response because it's really hard to kill Zerg players nowadays in ZVZ, don't you think?
I do. I mean, not only with the Queen, but how defensive banelings are just the fad. I mean, defensive banelings, they're able to just defend against so many Zerg and baneling all-ins, and then it's like, all I need to do is verify how many extractors you have. Once I am able to do that, now I know if you have the ability to go mass roaches. If I think you are going mass roaches, I just get my own roach war and play defensively, and I should be able to win any sort of all-in. So it's a really efficient way of playing in this early game stage. And that's why we normally see Zerg versus Zergs actually go into, that lair tech, where things actually starts to get frisky, and these players start trading Zergling Banelings, and maybe Infestors, maybe Mutas, maybe Speed Roaches, and sometimes maybe even Hydras. No, this is not Heart of the Swarms, and yes, Hydras are used in this mid-game stage.
Andre, we actually didn't get our own predictions. We heard Lauren's prediction.
Oh, yeah.
She picked Zenio. I picked Zenio as well.
I picked Zenio as well.
Well, great minds do tend to think alike, Andre. I picked Zenio because I think it was more of a heart pick than a mind pick. I just want Zenio to do well in NASL. I want him. I mean, I remember watching him in the Season 1 final stage and seeing how badly he wanted to win. And it's one of those situations where it's fair enough that Tasia and Hero are in the spotlight. I want Zenio to start being the one that people talk about.
Yeah, I think Zenio, just after seeing his match against Sen, is
heart, man.
Really,
he has
really
so
good,
much
man.
heart hanging that matchup, man. It was crazy.
But the stuff that I saw from that matchup, I was just like, wow, you are a really, really smart player. You just need to shore up a couple of mechanics and you'll be perfect. And that's what I can't wait to see. Look at this, putting it down a spine crawler. Both these players are actually putting it down the spine crawlers. It's absolutely common to do this. But it's being comprehensive with your defenses. It's really, really silly to lose a game just because you don't have a spine crawler. Yes, it's only one spine crawler, but this actually is like a queen at 2 shots baneling. Well, queens do not 2-shot banelings, but they kill banelings pretty fast. They kill banelings pretty fast, and it's just another, I guess, utensil that you can use when you're defending against these all-ins. It's really important to actually have these. But both these players going for defensive baneling play, teching to lair very, very fast.
Yep.
That is, Zenio is doing that. Galaxy is not. And maybe is he pressuring forward? This might be a little bit weird if he does that.
You're saying, well, yeah, Zenio's the one playing a little bit more defensively at this point. Getting his lair a lot later. In fact, his quad gassing significantly later than his opponent as well. Yeah, and I know what you're saying. Zenio's a very smart player, but he's also a quick player. I do want to mention that he's an extremely lightning bolt fast player. Easily, look at this. I mean, both of them are playing upwards in the 300, but Zenio's already going really quick. Starting to put on a little bit of pressure with his banelings as well, up at the natural of his opponent. But good dodging from Galaxy. Oh, even better dodging from Zenio. Oh my goodness, Andre.
You won't really do anything from this. I think Zenio, well, these players normally try to put on a little aggression. To sell, it might be some sort of one base all in. Yeah. Or excuse me, two base all in, but of course it isn't, and Galaxy will not buy that. Puts down the Spire. So this is something that we've seen in the metagame that's been a lot more popular. Mutas coming into the fray. Now mutas are really powerful in that they clear up the map. You don't have overlords around just seeing what's going on, so it actually puts a shroud onto Zenio's eyes. So all of a sudden, Zenio could be out of position if his Zerglings and Roaches aren't covering his third base or his natural. All of a sudden, Zerglings swing in. They do that very fast. And Galaxy will have this small but really effective timing where he can do a ton of damage. We're going to see if he actually implements that this game, as there is a little bit of Zergling Baneling pressure in this early game stage.
Yeah, and just like you said, though, Andre, both players are just kind of fainting to see how much aggression they can put off. Oh, the Banelings are trading. And in the end, you do see a lot more Zerglings do remain for Galaxy, but pretty good trades. And now the Roaches are out, Zergling aggression has been thwarted. But that also kind of begs the question. He says, well, I see a lot of Zerglings, actually a lot of Zerglings, and only a few Banelings. What is he pulling his gas for? Is he going Infestors? Is he going for Mutas? Zenio is moving in with an Overseer, and he's about to find out.
There it is. And the Spire is shown. So from this position, it's kind of weird. You normally don't say, okay, I got Roaches to actually counter this, but that's exactly what you do. And you can see a couple more Roaches are actually being put down. Now, you put the Roaches out on the field just to threaten some sort of counterattack. And what that does is makes the Mutas play a lot more defensive. Blue Reconstitution is about to kick in. That's when things get really, really tough for the mutating player. Now, it's still a really good position, I think, personally, for Galaxy, as he's the one that actually gets to choose when and where the battles actually start. From here, Zenio just has to kind of work around the vision of Galaxy and try to just threaten these harasses with the Roaches for now.
Yeah, and you can see that Zenio, he does have his queens kind of grouped together, does have a couple spine crawlers in position as well, but needs to buy time for that infestation pit. Now, how many mutas will Galaxy really commit to? Is he just going to make a few and then switch immediately into Roaches? It looks like it, but for now, he's just going to try to dive the queen. He gets one queen from Zenio, a nice pick up there, but a huge Zergling run by attempt has been thwarted, so overall, great defense from Zenio.
Oh, he's going to get the third queen over here at the mid-left-hand position. Beautifully done with those Zerglings, really empowering his mutas for a little bit longer. Now, this is the question that Zenio has to answer for himself. How and when is my opponent going to stop with the muta production? Already he's done so much damage, so right now he's thinking, okay, my opponent probably is switching out right now. I don't see additional mutas, so I have to be very careful of some early like Roach or Infestor play. So that's why he will be mixing in not only drones, but Zerglings and Roaches just to counter that potential. Yeah. It's going to be a very delicate balance since Zenio doesn't have a lot of eyes out in the map.
Yeah, but now that Galaxy has map control, he's able to really protect his turret very easily.
That's right.
And kind of say, Zenio, if you ever really want to commit to a counterattack, I'll be able to spot it. I'll be able to really whittle you down. By the time you get to my base, it'll be useless. So Zenio's still forced to play really passive. But a couple of things really do help Zenio. Like his Infestor tech is much further developed. He does have +2 on the way already. And those kinds of things will help Zenio, but those are advantages that are hard to exploit, especially when mutas control the map this well.
So one of the big problems about going mutas is actually you get a delayed Infestor tech, and for a while you will be behind in Infestors. The question is, how do you actually combat that? Now, the total advantage would have been to deny the third base, you get your own third base off, and you're able to have equal Infestor counts just because of the sheer income. Of course, that didn't happen, but he delayed Zenio quite substantially. Now it comes to a phase where Zenio is the one that will be aggressive in a little bit, and Galaxy is actually the one that has to play defensive. You can see he's starting spine crawlers. You might be like, why is he making spine crawlers? It's because of that impending Infestor count. He has to be very careful because there can be a slingshot with his army just pushing back like crazy, counterattacking, and he could lose the game. So this is a very, very tough state, I think, for Galaxy, but he's playing very comprehensive in his defenses. Yeah,
I totally agree. Now, one thing I do like is the incorporation of Hydras into like the mid game. A lot of Zergs are starting to really come around on having Hydras and DPS. But hold that thought, we have Mutas diving the first queen here, and Zenio, that's just going to be annoying because his production is just going to be stalled for a little bit in terms of injects and whatnot. But Zenio should be safe now he has Hydras out. And again, this is all great information for Galaxy because Zenio's been playing completely in the dark, and he doesn't know what his opponent really has been preparing this entire time. He doesn't have a good gauge of his opponent's infestor count, his roach count, and positioning. So this is all playing into the hands of Galaxy. But at the same time, pretty soon it's going to get to the point where the 8 meters don't really contribute much to a fight other than to snipe infestors. So Galaxy has to start really preparing for any kind of aggression from Zenio.
Yeah, when you go mutas, as you were saying, it's not really to have any force with your army. It's to actually delay your opponent, and you're investing in delaying your opponent rather than actually, you know, having some overt advantage. So he's been able to do a pretty good job actually picking off queens, picking off evolution chambers, and picking off overlords. And I think it has been worthwhile so far, but you do, as you said, want to trade them out a little bit later so that you can actually free them for something more important like infestors. But taking out that evolution chamber, that was making that, I believe it was plus
1 carapace.
Plus 1 carapace. Okay,
carapace. And it's also annoying because that means you can't play spores. I mean, those are just the small little advantages utilizing the meters. Now he's pulling back immediately because Zenio does have a very aggressive posture, and you can see, again, threatening the counterattack. This is exactly what you need to do with your very fast mobile army, and Zenio is not going to be prepared. Zerg can run straight to the main.
Unfortunately, loses so many queens this game. My god, I wish I had a queen kill count. Down to only 2 queens at this point. Zenio is hurting a little bit, but it's not really that substantial because we're so far into the game. There's a lot of excess larva, and as you can see, they're both pretty much maxed. The mutas will die, but honestly, I would love him to just not attack the mutas almost. Be like, hey, you have like 14 supply. That's completely useless, but of course he's just going to kill them because he doesn't want his infestors to die.
Yeah, he doesn't want map control really to belong too much longer to his opponent. Now, Zenio is getting a huge amount of spine crawlers at his 4th base to make sure that the counterattack possibilities have been limited. And now he just has to control this center area and don't have to worry about counterattacks. At the same time, Galaxy's trying to establish his 4th base, but Zenio is moving closer to it. Now, Zenio, he doesn't really have that big of an infestor advantage. In fact, 12-7 in favor of Galaxy because he's been preparing it, but Zenio just has a lot of roaches. Now, if he does this correctly and engage on his terms, anything can happen. But man, these tight spaces on Ohana are very deceptively deceiving, if I want to say.
Deceptively deceiving,
Andre. They're very tricky.
When you say it like that, I can't not agree with you.
Other words you should know.
And right now, Zenio has just been playing a very defensive style. It's really surprising, actually, because you would think he would be a little bit more aggressive, especially with that infestor count that he had earlier on. But right now, of course, as you were saying, the infestor count does go to his opponent, Galaxy. From here, though, I mean, it's really tough for either of these players to really substantiate some sort of push. With spine crawlers up, roaches, hydras, and infestors out in the field, defensive positions are always going to reign supreme, and that's why we see this change. Over into Hive tech, you can see double spire coming out for Liquid Zenio. He's just preparing broodlords, and he has to do so because any attacks right now are ill-fated for either of these players, so they have to say, okay, how do I bust entrenched positions? Broodlords are good, Ultra's not so great, but they can definitely work. Another thing you can do is say, okay, let me put a hatchery down here in the top left or the bottom right, and says, come at me, bro.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But I mean, both players are expanding in the plain sight of both players.
Yeah.
Infestors are moving forward for Galaxy. If you can catch the bottom half of the infestors, Andre, that would be so awesome. But looks like Zenio's doing a good job of avoiding it thus far. One infestor got left behind.
Oh no! He burrows! Thank God.
He gets away barely. At the same time, they're going to trade 5th bases, but now it's kind of an awkward position of do I keep pushing forward or do I fall back and try to protect against a counterattack?
It's a little difficult. Oh, big fungal growth on top of all the infestors. Can he actually? Okay, he. Oh,
that was very close. If he caught all those infestors, it would have been over. But a superior concave for Galaxy because he's able to press in, and all the units from Zenio are locked down. Keep in mind, Zenio has a lot more workers than his opponent, so the army supply does favor Galaxy that much more as well.
Zenio needs to just retreat from here. He shouldn't be actually pushing these infestors in. As you can see, a couple get caught off guard. Very unfortunate. Zenio now forced to make a couple of roaches, 14 roaches on the way out. Greater Spire is being teched to 30, excuse me. So he's massing up as much as possible. Now this bottom right-hand position will have to be canceled. But right now, both these players, look at that. Both these players actually getting pretty similar Greater Spire timings. That's really, really funny, actually. As, you know, they will start to actually start breaking each other at the same time. Let me look at the units lost tab. It's pretty similar, even though that battle looked really one-sided. I guess look at Zenio is a little bit more cost-efficient, especially with those mutas not really going into some sort of huge advantage for Galaxy. I think time will tell. Right now, it's not really a game of economy. It's not really a game of unit compositions. It's a game of positioning. That's all ZVZ is right now. And until they actually get Greater Spire tech, we're not going to know who has the advantage.
I mean, that's all mirror matches in general. I mean, ZVZ kind of caught on the latest to it, but TVT and PvP are very similar, especially with this mid to late game engagements. And now with Infestors being very, very much empowered, it's going to be very tough for either player to directly push into it. Zenio's caught up in the Infestor count, and he has a pretty insane amount of resources banked. He's leading in the gas count. In fact, both players are, wow, this is incredible. Basically approaching 5K, 3K for both players. Now we see that Zenio is trying to push up here, but realistically, can he even force himself into a position like this, Andre? Like, it's so tough.
There's no real way unless his opponent actually gives him something like this. Roaches and Hydras will be picked off, but Galaxy really does not care. It frees up a ton of supply, and look at that. 8 Broodlords in production right now. Not only that, Infestors are going to replace all the supply that he lost. Zenio needs to start thinking about actually getting rid of his supply.
Yeah, he is. He's throwing some roaches away.
But at this point, I mean, does he have any Corruptors out? No, he doesn't. I think Zenio might be in the worst case possible because he has no direct response to any of these Broodlords. And when you're this delayed, there's so much momentum that Galaxy is going to have directly after this push. If you can latch on a single fungal like this, that's going to give Galaxy the momentum that he needs.
Caught 3 Infestors, and that's a huge play. Now, there is kind of a weird thing in ZVZ, as there is such thing as overmaking Broodlords, because you lose too much mobility, and so sometimes the players just completely circumvent the army and try to run by non-stop because Broodlords are very slow. And you have Corruptors that can kind of hunt down the Broodlords, and I think that's what Zenio might do. He's, he's pulling back at this point, only using a few roaches to run by, while his opponent's pushing in further and further, and this is still a very intimidating army. The one thing that might be consolation, though, to Zenio is that his opponent's Broodlords have very poor upgrades, and that's going to be very much an effect when Hydras get close range.
The one thing I have to be critical of Galaxy is not having enough Spine Crawlers over here. Zenio's just walking over his opponent. Does he have enough ground to really defend against something like this?
A ton of huge fungal on some of the Infestors, and Zenio was immediately forced to eject a lot of Infested Terrans. That could have been a lot of energy, but he catches a lot of Galaxy's Infestors with fungals as well. Andre, now I don't even know what's going on here. Goodness.
Broodlord's coming back. That'll really help out. And there is a big advantage right now for Galaxy. You can see that he's trying to, or Zenio is trying to deal with them with just pure Corruptors. When you have Hydra Infestor out on the field, it's so hard to actually do something. Now, yes, he does take out the top right-hand position, but look at this. This is what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter at this endgame stage whether or not you have a good economy or 3-4 running bases. It doesn't matter because it's just positioning, army composition relative to your opponent. That's all that really matters, just because both these players have been building that bank for just so long. ZVZ has this weird positioning where it's just, what do you have on the field? What do you have on the field that actually is of substance? Really, it's going to come down to Infestors, Hydras, Corruptors, and Broodlords, and that balance, that delicate balance based on the map.
This game has been very much a slugfest between these two players. Zenio never really able to dictate a battle on his terms. Galaxy getting good position, but still, Zenio able to kind of scramble together some form of army and be able to hold off any form of counterattack. Now that's kind of the biggest problem with Broodlords. It's just they're so slow. If you rush back to kind of defend your bases, your counterattack is very much delayed, and that kind of gives your opponent the necessary time. Zenio is almost completely remade of his army. Both players are exhausting their bank very much so. And they're also kind of running low on patches and gas counts here. They're gonna have to try to focus on bases, but this is also kind of like a weird point where, because their bases are kind of out of the way, counterattacks on the other sides are very strong.
That's exactly right. That's why spine crawlers are going to be so much more important on a map like Ohana rather than a map like, what's a good map? Like Antigua Shipyard, something like that. So from here, we're just going to wait until they actually battle yet again. I do feel like Zenio is behind still. I mean, you can see how many corruptors that he has to have out in the field. And really, he doesn't want that many corruptors. He's hard countering these Broodlords because he had to. The fact of the matter is, Galaxy was able to get that head start with the Broodlord count. So right now he's preparing, like, my opponent could have potential of even more Broodlords directly after this. I need to make a lot more Corruptors, which will severely weaken his ground army. And you can see, I do believe the Infestor count, the Roach and Hydra count, is much better for Galaxy in this position than his opponent. 18 to 6,
This is a very intimidating army from Galaxy, and this is to the point where Zenio did lose some of his Corruptors, so he can't directly confront. A few Corruptors from Galaxy also pushing forward as well. And this could be the game-defining battle. The Corruptors from Zenio are rushed to see and trying to see if they can confront, but the Infested Terran wall from Galaxy really shoving Zenio further and further back. But a lot of Infestors got caught by the Fungals. Great job from Zenio thus far. Just needs to get a couple more Fungals to latch it off. At the very end of it, the Corruptors from Zenio are working onto the Broodlord count, but Zenio's also losing lots of his supply, and he's forced to retreat.
Yeah, I have no clue how you actually cast that Frodan, but Zenio is going to back up from here with a massive deficit, losing his bottom right-hand base, but in the meantime, there is a counterattack in the top left-hand corner. You can see Zenio desperately needs to take out this base just to try to equalize economies, but not really. If you can see the units lost tab, this is what matters. Look at the big difference in resources. And it's just because Galaxy had the momentum going into it. He's able to produce the right units relative to his opponent. There's just too many Corruptors out in the field. And really, you should be relying more on Infested Terrans than anything else as your anti-air. But Zenio is pretty far behind. And, you know, it just comes down to these battles, how well they can engage in ZVZ. And
Zenio ZVZs are always such, it's a war of attrition.
It's always like this, man.
It's always a struggle. It's never easy. And Zenio at this point is still kind of hard to break. He's got a lot of spawns at the 4th, which is a huge point of contention. That's almost all of Zenio's drones, in fact. I really actually wish there was a harder swarm counter right now to see how many drones are on it. But we do see it's well over into the 30s. Zenio still has a good number of Infestors, and Zenio still has Broodlord count, so he's not necessarily out of it, even though Galaxy has a slight advantage. Upgrades are pretty much even across the board, except that Zenio does have an extra air upgrade on his air, so it's still pretty similar fighting grounds here, Andre.
Yeah, it's that Infestor count that's really making the difference, I think.
Infested Terrans dropped early in battle.
Yeah, that's
so key.
That's what it is. Infested Terrans are just so powerful. And you know what? In my games for ZVZ, I've been going Banelings just to counter that, because Banelings obviously are pretty light in supply and they can kill a lot of Infested Terrans very, very fast, although it's hard implementing them at times, especially in this late game. Huge battle. I have no clue what's going on, but here we go. The first fungal growth is going to be initiated by Galaxy. Beautifully done. Now all the Infested Terrans are going to be popped out. Zenio doing the right decision of backing up, not letting those Infested Terrans actually do their work.
Yeah.
And that could be actually really, really good, although he did lose a lot in that first engagement. Can Galaxy actually do anything with this next attack? It's going to be really tough, Frodan.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Infested energy was burned. Oh, big fungals from Zenio because he's able to catch the remainder of the units. He had an Infestor flanking from behind. He's able to take care of some of the units. More Infested Terrans drop from Galaxy in an attempt to push away. Zenio backs off for now. Now down to the last remaining corner. Zenio can't go anywhere. This is his last, and he needs to retreat. And if all of his army dies right here, that is it. Galaxy has so many Roaches and Hydras, though, ready to fight. It doesn't even matter if he doesn't have Infested Terrans. Zenio's pushing back further. The Broodlord's trying to work. Oh, and Galaxy has Queens ready to transfuse in position. More Infestors coming in also, and Zenio is running out of space. Galaxy supply remaining strong, but Zenio he has no more air, no more oxygen really to keep on breathing in this game as Galaxy is choking the remainder. No more gas to remax. The only thing that stands left is the Broodlords that remain. And at this point, Zenio is half the supply of his opponent. After a long 35-minute struggle, Zenio is finally running out of steam. But Galaxy, he's had to earn every single second of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can really see the amazing class play of both these players really showing why Galaxy deserved a spot in the North American Star League. And oh my gosh, that battle. I mean, it was pretty one-sided, let's be honest. Zenio was pretty far behind in his counts, in his supply counts, which is super unfortunate. Obviously, when that happens in ZVZs, when they're at similar army compositions, you're going to have a pretty one-sided battle. Zenio is going to counterattack in the top left-hand corner, but the fact of the matter is we still have a mining base over here. GG gets called out by Zenio, and Galaxy will take game number 1. Wow. Wait,
very
do the
good
GG,
game.
hold it up again. Watch this.
Sparkles. Guys, that was a very good game. Zenio ZVs are always a treat, but I want to also compliment Galaxy so well on how he played. He was playing at 450 APM the entire way through that second half of that game. Very laborious, but hard work, well-deserved, earned. Whatever way you can just say that he deserved that win.
Yeah, that ZVZ was actually pretty complex to actually go over it like in a short 30 seconds, I do want to mention. But basically, I'm just going to kind of summarize it. The Roach, Hydra, and Fester, once both players are max on that composition and you start getting spine crawlers, it's almost impossible to actually breach some sort of defense. So that's why the Broodlord tech was facilitated and needed to come out. The fact of the matter is Broodlord tech was started earlier for Galaxy, and once you go into a position where you're caught off guard with your opponent going Broodlords, all they need to do is push out the Broodlords a little bit, and you're forced to actually go around the Broodlords. If you confront it straight on, you're absolutely dead. So you go around the Broodlords, try to do a counterattack, but Galaxy did, which was so important, was prepared for it and said, I'm going to receive your attack and then play it a little bit more cost efficient than you. I'll get the resource loss advantage on you, or obviously kill more stuff than you've been killing, thereby being more efficient, and then I can just play late game, having that extra 70 supply ahead of you for the rest of the game.
That game was brought to you by iBuyPower, the pre-assembled PC company that helps power our broadcast each and every day of the week. When we return, game number 2 will take place between Zenio and Galaxy. Don't go anywhere. More action when we return.